I'm just going to keep talking until something works. All my other videos, 8 views, 3 views. And it's, those were good. To me. Physics, I dissed God in another one. The main God, the Jesus God. Actually, all Judeo-Christianism. So like 60% plus of the planet. I dissed their God. Why they would, not be interested in watching / listening to it, is beyond me. If my God was being dissed, I'd be paying attention. Taking down names, doxing. Anyhow, so we're just going to keep trying different stuff to see what sticks. Because, I definitely should be, a higher earning social influencer because, look at these, look at these retards that are doing it, right? So, it's just a matter of time. Let's turn the subject to politics. A lot of people into politics. It wasn't that way. It wasn't that way a while ago, man. It really wasn't that way. I can remember when, whether you were Republican or Democrat was not an important thing, at all. Around election time and stuff, people would kind of, pay attention and stuff. And, but there wasn't the kind of discourse we have now. But since we have it now, I'm going to jump in with both feet. And here's the thing about me. I can't stand liberals. Here's another thing about me. I can't stand conservatives. You know what I hate even more than liberals or conservatives is apologist liberals and fascist conservatives. I can't stand either one of them. So, when I see these flame wars going on Twitter and stuff like that, I love it. And it doesn't matter which side is winning. I just like them putting each other down because they're always right. Both sides are totally right. Yes, if you're saying something bad about liberals, you're correct. And if you're saying something bad about the other side, the right or the left, you're correct. They both suck. And, so, if anybody was actually listening to this at this point, they're gone now. What? Because they're always on both. They always pick a side, don't they? Even independents lean in a direction. I don't lean in a direction. Do you know what that makes me? According to science, smart. That's right. The smartest people in the world, the highest IQs, are right in the freaking middle. The further you go in either direction, the lower the IQ scores get. It's a fact. You want the source, hit me up or go on Google. Use Google. If you're not bright enough to use Google, then it's probably you that's way on one side. The more in the fringes you get, the more out there in the weeds to the left or right, the stupider you are. It's a fact. and it's demonstrable. So let's talk about why. Let's talk about who first brought this fact up. That would be Aristotle. I don't know if you heard of the guy. There was Socrates, and then Plato, and then Aristotle. Socrates was Plato's master, and then Aristotle was under Plato. And I like Aristotle best. It seemed like he got the benefits of both those dudes and his own shit, came up with his own, it's like he refined their stuff, got it, and then used that to as a springboard for what I think is an amazing thing that he did. And that's, he came up with something called virtue ethics. You learn about this in ethics class, first week, when you're in, junior college, whatever college. Ethics. It's one of the 5, pillars of, philosophy. So ethics, virtue ethics. What did Aristotle say that has anything to do with politics? He said, he didn't specifically name politics. What he said was that everything, the center is the best in everything. He called it the mean between extremes. And what he said was that moderation, being in the middle, was the virtuous place to be. And he used a lot of examples. One of those examples is, for example, bravery. Now, is that in the middle? Or is that an extreme? It's in the middle. What are the other 2 extremes? Cowardice, obviously, would be one way. I would say the left way. And then the right way is what? Foolhardiness. If you're in the military and you're in a foxhole and your sergeant tells you to wait and not rush that hill, because we need reinforcements, but you go rush that hill anyway with the machine gun nest, firing like crazy. Is that brave? You've just given away your platoon's location, for one thing. And you're riddled full of bullets and you're dead now. You can't help your platoon when they get the reinforcements and they're ready to charge that hill. So that's foolhardiness. That's one extreme. The other extreme is cowardice. In the middle is bravery. That's the virtue. And you can do that with everything. Gluttony, or take all the deadly sins, 7 deadly sins. You find that there's a middle. The sin is the extreme on one end, and then on the other end is another extreme. In everything, like politics, in the middle is the virtue. On one extreme is the left, and another extreme is the right. Right in the middle is the virtue. And the only reason that the United States is the world's oldest democracy and still standing, even after recent events, is because that we have 2 polarized, opposed viewpoints. We don't have, like some countries, 15 different, and it's everybody split between all those, and they can't figure anything out. We got 2, and that acts like a pendulum. The pendulum swings left, and then when it gets too far, it gets pulled back by the right, and it swings. And when it gets too far, it gets pulled. And the pendulum, because we have these 2 strong, diametrically opposed viewpoints. Thank God for you guys. You're dumber the further you get in either direction, but if it wasn't for you, we'd be screwed. It's because that's why I'm cheering there on Twitter. We need you. We need both sides to be strong, and we can't have one side get more motivated than the other side. Because then, God forbid, things ever get to the point where we've got like a super majority in Congress, that no filibuster, will have any effect on. God forbid that either side get that. Oh my God. I can't stand liberals. I can't stand conservatives. What do I hate about liberals? Jesus Christ. Gays are 3.5% of the population. Yet they get way too much. You know what else is 3.5? I gotta memorize long acronyms that they keep adding to, or I'm not sensitive. Pronouns? Are you kidding me? Because of some little tiny. Why should the vast 95%, 96.5% majority have to cater to 3% of anything? I mean, what else is 3%? I think 3% of the country are Satanists. Should we have to, study up on their acronyms too and clap at their parades? I don't have anything against gay people. I just don't care, at all. And I don't want it always thrown in my face. And I don't want to have to pronouns and what's lesbian and gay work fine. Why do we classify people according to who they like to screw? Why is that the thing you get paraded? Why is that like that's who I am? Why is that who you are? Why is that look like some little tiny thing about you? Why is that who you are? I don't understand that. Who you like? Who? So what? You know, that maybe when you go into a bar and you're looking to get laid, then you wear that. But why all the time? I just don't get it, and I don't like it. 3.5%. What else don't I like? I'm sorry, but Roe versus Wade was activist court, and it was wrong. The Constitution does not say anything about or imply that abortion is protected. There's no implied right to privacy. I'm sorry, but when the Constitution got ratified by the states that were around at that time, when the Constitution got ratified way back when by a handful of states, nobody checked the box saying I ratify everything these words imply. They didn't just leave it to the future to read into it. Verbatim, what it states exactly is all they ratified. They weren't reading in implications. They thought that future generations would just read it too. So Roe versus Wade was bull. Do I think that abortion should be legal? Sure. I don't have any particular it's not my business, is the way I look at it. And I think each state should, that's what the original framers of the Constitution thought too. The article, the 10th Amendment says what? It says anything not specifically laid out here in everything else, is left to the states. If we don't specifically mention it, then what we're doing here is telling you that means that that's a state power. The states ceded to the federal government to become, as a republic, the states cede certain powers, but they only cede certain powers, not implied powers and not a blanket umbrella for powers. They say, okay, we'll ratify this just in the words that you put exactly, and that we cede this powers to the federal government. When they say the right to bear arms with the organized militia or regulated, a well-regulated militia, that's what they meant. That's the federal government giving back power to the states that the states had ceded. So the states cede certain things. It says, okay, it's an agreement, a constitution. We're going to, in exchange for collective defense, where each state doesn't have to spend all its money on that, collective roads and highways and universal measurement systems and all the benefits you get by being a collective. You have to cede certain things too. If you're going to do that and be part of it, then you have to agree that you're going to be bound by certain rules that we all agree to too. So the states cede something and the federal government cedes something. And the states cede things that are enumerated in the Constitution specifically. And since abortion wasn't even something that was thought of, back then, it wasn't in it. It didn't cross the founding fathers' minds. And speaking of what did cross the founding fathers' mind, let's keep in mind that those founding fathers only believed that citizens were white men that owned land. You're only protected by the Constitution if you fell in that category. So, we've evolved since then, but the Constitution is not a living, breathing document unless it was specifically ratified based on the exact verbatim verbiage. That's the deal. And if something needs to be changed, then it requires 3/4 of the states to change it. And if 3/4 of the states don't want to change it, I guess then we don't agree. And you can just move to a state that agrees with you. And it's that simple. Okay? That's how I feel about that. Roe versus Wade was bullshit. It was correct to undo Roe versus Wade. It's not correct to try and make use the legislature to try and restrict abortion for states that don't want to do that, because that power was not given in the Constitution. Jesus Christ, both sides, they want to twist things, change things, ignore things in order to get their way. And in the process, they throw away the founding document or weaken it, adulterate it in so doing. And they feel justified because they think their side's right. The fact that both sides think they're right and can't even see the views of the other side shows the need for both sides. Either side getting full power would be a disaster. One way, we'd end up being a socialist, a welfare country in no time, and we just fall apart. And the other way, we'd be a totalitarian, fascist regime, and fall apart the other direction. United we stand, divided we fall. Now to be united, if that means being polarized and being united in two halves that are united against each other, well, that's the way things have worked since the beginning. You think people, there's genetic reasons for being, they have genetic tests they did on, toddlers, and it showed, or preschool kids a long time ago, like decades ago. And what they found was, that most kids have similar views to their parents politically. And by politically, they don't ask preschoolers what, if they're Democrat or Republican. What they do is they ask them questions that reveal whether they will probably be conservative or will they probably be liberal. What kind of questions? Well, it's very easy. The ones that like the rules, should we always do what the teacher says no matter what? Yes, say the Republicans. The teacher could be wrong sometimes, say the liberals. And boom, that's how they put them in a category. Another question. If somebody hits you, do you hit them back or do you go tell the teacher? Which way do you think those fall? The go tell the teacher is what? The liberals, of course. And the hit them back is the conservatives. So we already know who they're going to be when they're preschoolers. And guess what? The studies show that they match their parents to an incredible extreme, and it wasn't just based on environment. And they follow these kids for decades to see if they stayed that way or if it was just, had something to do with, their environment. But no, they all stayed that way, like to a ridiculously high percentage that way above what the odds would be randomly. So it's genetic. Left, right, maybe center. And so that's why you're not going to change any minds. All this arguing going back and forth, but the arguing serves a purpose. It stakes out the battle lines. It creates a middle. There is no middle if there's no left and right. So left and right determines where the middle is. And that middle, varies from, it moves this way and that. I used to consider myself, I would say people tell me these days, I lean left. I've heard that. Why? Because I think that Donald Trump is a jackass, more than an evil. And that July or January 6th was just the South rising again, and trying to overthrow the government because they didn't get their way. The same bullshit that occurred in 1860. What was happening then? Oh, the states were all leaving the states up until that point, 1860. For every slave state, for every new state admitted to the Union, there had to be a slave state. Missouri Compromise. And but then the problem was that a bunch of Western states just didn't want to be a slave state, and so the South saw the writing on the wall. Pretty soon, we're not going to have our half say in the Senate. 2 senators per state. If we don't get pretty soon we're going to be outnumbered by far, and we're going to. It wasn't just slavery. that they were, it was about. It was about taxes. The South paid way more in taxes than the North. So they, in a sense, subsidized the North because they, all the cotton and the stuff that they produced, and they didn't have that many people down there, population wise. They were paying, for the industrial growth in the North, and they were resentful. Tariffs on their stuff going out was all going up there, not going back to them. The same bitch, incidentally, that the colonies had when they rebelled against England. So in a sense, the South, the Civil War, was the same. It was the same thing we did collectively, earlier. Oh, no taxation without representation. Well, that's basically what the South was saying. That's what we said in the Revolutionary War. No taxation without representation was the big bitch that we had, and why we started shooting at our fellow English people. And the reason the South started shooting and the North started shooting at the South was because the South was saying no taxation without representation. Stop taking our money by tariffs, sending it to the North, and then meanwhile cutting us out of the representation by not adding slave states. That's all. It was the same thing. They're identical. And, now I'm just taking out all moral issues and just saying that, but the point was identical. In fact, the whole slavery thing, and this war's about slavery, and we're doing it for slavery, didn't really get said until Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, when he knew that history was going to be looking back at why did this thing happen. When it actually started happening, his last offer to the South to stay was that he would make sure that was passed a constitutional amendment that guaranteed in perpetuity, forever, slavery in all states that had slaves. That was Abraham. Don't believe me? Look it up. Abraham Lincoln was not some big emancipator. He fought to keep, he was like England. If England won the war and we were not allowed to leave. That's what happened. I'm not in favor of the South. I think seceding is wrong. You know what? Actually, I'm not sure how I feel about it. If a part of Germany, say Bavaria, wanted to leave when Adolf Hitler took power, do I think they should have been able to? See? So that's a whole thing in itself. So, you know what? I retract that thing. But what happened on January 6th was wrong. It wasn't just a straight up, we don't like the result of an election, so we're going to pull some fraudulent bullshit. So I guess I'm the one that made the comparison with the first Civil War. And I did that because it's like the same people, the same mentality, the Southern, that would be okay with having slaves. But now my comparison is falling apart because January 6th is much, much, much worse than that. And I'm not even sure that I believe that, the South was wrong in the Civil War. So I just kind of talked myself into that. But let's get to what I hate about conservatives, because I've said a lot of bad stuff now about the liberals. Did I want to add something else about the liberals? They're just, let me say something I like about liberals. If the worst thing you can really say about them is they're bleeding heart. These are the terms that people, you're a bleeding heart. You're a blank, enter a minority name here, lover. That's the worst thing you can say about them, is that they care about other people that aren't like them too much. You're a tree hugger. So they care about other things than just themselves. And that's the insult. You see what I'm getting at? It's kind of like, maybe it is, and I am saying it is too far when you go in that direction. Look what happens. Pronouns, little tiny marginalized groups get blown up as big or bigger than the majority. And that's just ridiculous. So, but at the same time, these people are coming from a good spot. They're able to be empathetic and get out of themselves. And, well, what if I was in that situation? If we had more thinking like that in Germany, before World War II, we might not have had a World War II. know what I'm saying? And like millions of dead Jews in concentration camps because others didn't put themselves or care enough. So that's what so if I had to pick a side that I prefer, it would be that side that I just dissed a lot. Conservatives, on the other hand, seem to be, here's the thing about Republicans, is that they're all about the rich people. You know, they can't just go straight. Rich people can't, if it just came down to rich people versus poor people voting for things, like the poor people would all vote for more taxes on the rich because that would mean more money going to them. It would be a self-serving thing that they would do. And so rich people know this, and because they have the money to put into the system and fund politicians, they can force other narratives to make it look like that's not what's going on. But that is what's going on. Make no mistake, conservatives, I see right through you. First thing you do when you get whoever elected within a few months is that big ass tax cut. So, and the rich people that are conservatives would rather, let poor people die and not have, medical care, than lose a few extra dollars of their money at the end of the year. It just feels insulin, the price of insulin. You couldn't even get the Republicans in Congress to agree, to let diabetics have insulin for, triple the price of Canada or England or Australia. It's like 10 times the price here, for the only reason because rich people own those companies and make money off of it, and they pay money to Republican congressmen, and I guess they would need a few liberals on board. Maybe not. No, they just had to block it. So no, all they would have to do is pay off the Republicans, and apparently that worked. That's messed up. I'm sorry. There's no wriggling out of that one. I guess they have talking points, but that's just screwed up. You guys are evil. So, but either side, as Aristotle said, is bad. You don't want to be red. You don't want to be blue. I know it's become like a team thing now. People identify with that. Families, areas, communities are, one side or the other. It's, it's more important than your football team, than your baseball team, than it's your, it runs even deeper than that. It's your identity. It's who you are. Eat both sides, and, just know the perspective from the middle here is just, thank God one side isn't significantly stronger than the other. And thank God that balance has gotten this country, to be united in a sense all these years. And so I'm grateful for that balance. I'm grateful that January 6th didn't end it, because that very well could have happened. If it wasn't for Mike Pence, they call a traitor on that side, because he didn't, he didn't let this side win. And that's all either side cares about. Although it seems that one side, is willing to go to, further lengths to accomplish that than the other. The right thing happened though. And that means that there's something still right in this country that's larger than either individual side. And so the view from the center here is that things are just fine. And we're going to be fine. And so, that's really all I got to say about politics.